You've got an engineer stripping down a spindle, which is the precision part of the machine. So 1 minute you're asking it to rip off as much metal as possible, hammer the life out of it. And the next minute you're asking it to work to a few microns. So it's got to be a really, really well-built piece of equipment.
Welcome to the MTD Podcast. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show. A passionate engineer and a very proud member of the MTD team. Today, I'm privileged and really excited to be at the headquarters of DMG MORI in Coventry, a £1 billion global organisation and world-leading supplier of machine tools, automation and technology. We will be producing a series of podcasts together over the next 12 months, learning all about the business operations that make this fantastic organisation so successful. In today's podcast, I have the pleasure to be joined by two very special guests. Firstly, an ambassador for engineering, an industry leader and managing director of DMG MORI UK, Steve Finn. Steve was employed with the group back in 1982 and progressed through the business from application engineer, technical sales, area sales, national sales, and now managing director with responsibility for sales, service and operations. Welcome to the MTD Podcast, Steve.
Thanks, Gio. Really nice to be here. Appreciate the very warm welcome.
It's brilliant being part of this, Steve. Thank you. We also have the pleasure to be joined by Teresa Jenkins, employed with the group since 1985 in spares and service. In 2013 to 2017, she took a sabbatical, which we'll find out more about shortly. And from 2017 to this date, she's now the Spares Manager with knowledge in how operations function in the UK and overseas, logistics, and an abundance of invaluable product knowledge. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Gio. Great to meet you.
So before we start and continue, what was the sabbatical for?
Just have a break from working life, I suppose. I've been working for many, many, many years and wanted to spend some time with the family. Particularly, we've got a new baby in the family and enjoyed taking her swimming and gymnastics and all the other things that you tend to miss out on.
That's brilliant. And are you glad to be back at work? And
then realised I needed to come back. And carry on, trying to help DMG MORI, carry on and evolve and,
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll be touching on your role a little bit more during the podcast. Now, Steve, we're going to be doing 10 podcasts over the next 10 months. Now, what are the purpose of these podcasts?
Well, I think it's really important for customers to understand who we are and how we operate. And there's lots and lots of social media out there on our products. There's product that's been released by you guys, MTD. There's product that's been released by our own group. There's all kinds of videos. And there's lots of actually customers, obviously on things like LinkedIn and Twitter, sending out stuff about our machines, which I'm very, very grateful of. But what's really behind all of this is really important. And it's not something that most people want to talk about. They want to promote a product. Look how good and big and shiny this is. But actually what really makes that product stand head and shoulders above everything else is how it's supported. And, you just spoke to Teresa there about her sabbatical, and it's been no secret about what I've been trying to do over the last 10 years, and that's really bring a crack team together to make sure that the operations of this business can be the best and be world leading. And I've got some way to go, but we've got a great team together, and we lured Teresa back because she did a fantastic job in the previous world of DMG and lots of knowledge that is very, very useful to our customers. So from that point of view, over the next 10 months, I want to talk about our operations. And each month we'll do a session on a various part of the company. And today is about spares.
That's brilliant, Steve. Now, you started in 1982, a very good year. Italy won the World Cup that year, so I can remember it fondly.
Very good.
Can you start by telling our listeners a little bit about the company and the products that you sell here at DMG MORI, please?
Right. Well, DMG and MORI came together, about 10 years ago. Time flies so quickly. Two very big companies. Both with very different product ranges as well. There was some overlap, but actually there was only 5% overlap of customers. So this was a great opportunity to increase market share for one company. And there was also some really smart things that both companies did. And there was some really stupid things that both companies did as well, I can assure you. And that's life. But the reality is we took the smart things and we're building them together. So we can supply both subtractive and additive machine tools to the world market, supported by lots and lots of things like automation, digitalisation, all levels of software, planning boards through to looking at net service on machines for diagnostics, looking to the DMG MORI portal, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. And it's a very rounded service. So behind that, I've got to have some really strong people, employing around 100 people here in the UK, and these people have got to have really in-depth knowledge about the product, how the product performs, how we supply to the product, so in Teresa's case, how we support that product, in the application engineers, how he makes it work, and so on and so forth. We have good market share in the UK. It's growing all the time. Last year, we had something like 43% of our business was new business. So that is indicative of what the market is thinking of DMG MORI, and that's positive. So I'm very pleased that's going in the right direction. And I want to open our doors and be very transparent about how we operate, how we can work better with the customer, and what their needs are as well. We're learning every day.
I'm really excited about this. I think it's a really fresh angle that we're approaching this podcast with. I think we're, taking a deep dive into what makes a business successful, and in my opinion, I think service, spare, support is the heart of the business and probably the hardest part of the business. I think, that once the first machines get sold, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth machines are sold due to, the support, the service and the spares that follow that first one. Would you agree, Teresa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our customers still want the arms round the shoulders to make, so that we're saying that we care, and we can do that by developing relationships with them, giving them a good response, and just making it work. And they will then come back because they say, well, actually, we get really good response. We get good relationship. And I think that all helps support the sales team to sell that next machine. And
you must have made many relationships, over the years. I mean, prior to us recording this podcast, I mentioned a name that I didn't know that you'd know, and you knew him straight away. So, I mean, you must have built some fantastic relationships over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, back in the old days, dare I say, everything was done by telephone or face-to-face. We used to get the opportunity to build those relationships by visiting the customer along with the sales team, and it all helps. Likewise with the Germans, and the Japanese, the factories, same thing. Build up the relationship.
In a digital world, you mentioned digitalisation, Steve. In a digital world, which I believe that's been accelerated through COVID, I think the new emerging technologies have certainly come to the forefront now. How has it changed your role? So
with most of the population working from home over the last 10, 11 months, with maybe people haven't got access to their telephones anymore, so it's all done by email, Teams meetings, Skype calls. However, we can contact the customer, and we will go with what they are comfortable with as well.
And how do your spares operate in Germany and around the world?
Spares, I believe we're very lucky. We have a global system that we are all linked to, and we process all our enquiries and orders on that system. But we have fantastic support from them. We have the order management team. Again, they've merged so that anybody in any factory can pick up an order and deal with it rather than it just be factory related, product specific. And behind them, they've got a technical support department that will assist them with identifying spare parts, and that feed gets fed back through the system, plus the emails or telephone calls if you need to get an instant response.
So it's certainly changed the way in which you work here at DMG MORI, not just in the UK, but around the world. I mean, you mentioned some real nice kind of buzzwords, Steve: automation, digitalisation. I can remember coming to your last open house before COVID, and you were already on that road, remote access, Industry 4.0. I think that now it's really kind of benefited. These technologies have benefited from COVID. How has it changed your business? And how is it? What's the synergy between digitalisation and spares and service, Steve?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. This COVID, the winner of the COVID has been digitalisation, and how that's accelerated. And it's we were working on this way before the COVID situation, so we had a bit of a head start. So, for example, we have developed a customer portal called My DMG MORI. So, if you own a machine tool, you can have a portal that's just applicable to you, and it will show you all the history of your machine, parts ordered, accounts, service, applications, and it's also very easy to utilise. So if you want, you can send a message to Teresa's crew by simply looking at the portal. There'll be a picture of the given machine, and you can change those pictures to whatever suits your own production type thing. People tend to call machines by numbers. Machine number 1, machine number 2, you can just press the button, press the picture, and it automatically comes up. What do you want to do? I want to request a spare part. You send that through, you send it through at 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock, or even earlier in Teresa's case, 7:30 next morning, you'll get a call. It's our responsibility to call you. So you don't have to worry about that. You can sleep at night, This is actually linked throughout the whole world, and it's becoming very transparent how we work with that. So we have these centres in Germany, which is our main hub for spare parts at Gerritsried, and we have one in Japan and we have one in America, all working on different time zones, all supplying their own markets, but actually there is a crossover as well. So we may well be talking to someone in the USA, as Teresa just said, and it doesn't matter about what factory, where the part comes from. We may talk to Spares in USA at 10 o'clock at night and get it couriered over into Heathrow or Birmingham Airport, for the next morning. So there are major benefits for having these central hubs, and you've got to have a good network communication within that. Emails is not the only way to do things, and you've got to have some sort of centralisation. The group use SAP, for example. Internally, we use our own systems, but it's all linked in to give feedback throughout the world. And of course, then you can start looking at, what spares are required, predictive stuff when they're required, what your stock levels, and we've got over 100 million euros worth of stock just at Gerritsried.
Wow, I mean that was leading on to my next question there. How much stock do you carry? Now, it's not just about carrying all that stock, is it? That is one of the major factors in all of this. But you also do price matching, and obviously in this price driven world, that's really important. What does that actually mean, Teresa?
So price match, it's something we're very keen to promote as part of our service to our customers. If we send a quotation for a part and the customer says, well, actually, I can get that cheaper, we ask them to submit a quotation from the third party, and we will have a look at that and send it over to Germany and just say, can you price match that? If it's identical, then yes, we happily will do so. And this will apply even if we've supplied a part and a week later a customer says, well, actually, I could have bought that for less. Please submit your quote and we will refer it back to our pricing department, and 9 times out of 10 they will price match it after the event, which means we will credit the difference to the customer.
So that gives the customer that ability then for Teresa just to order the part there and then and get it and get their machine back in production. Because it is important, because we do supply third-party parts as well, and we've got hundreds of thousands of parts on the shelf. And bearing in mind we can deliver the next day 95, is it Teresa, 95, 96%?
95%
of all of those
next
parts
day.
Next day, that gives the customer the confidence to come to us. Oh, it's a bit more than what I really wanted to pay for, a bit more than perhaps I can get it in the marketplace. Order it, get your machine up and running. Then, okay, let's have a look at a price match. Because we want to be fair with the customer. We want him to get his machine up and running. We want to earn some money from it, and we want him to earn some money from it.
Is this the benefits really that come with working with a big £1 billion organisation really? Are these the benefits that the consumer receive?
It gives us buying power.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not every day that a client will need a spare part, but you alluded to, Steve, about remote access and kind of identifying a potential fault before it's even happened, so you can change that part prior to the part failing. This is, again, digitalisation, remote access, Industry 4.0, whatever you want to call it. But again, has this really helped your business, Teresa?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at predictive stuff, it's very good. It allows us just to think a little bit ahead and say to the customer, well, if you don't replace that part, the likelihood of your brakes are going to fail when you're going downhill, and that's what you don't want. You don't mind brakes failing going uphill, but not downhill. And, I think it's very important that we can have that kind of conversation with the customer, because parts do wear, parts do break, and accidents do happen, particularly in our industry, where we unfortunately have got, less and less skill sets, and we're relying more on the technology of the machine to do things for us. Machines become working a lot faster, and people have bumps in the night. That's a fact of life as we see it. A lot of our service work we're doing is often restraightening the machine, doing the alignments again, which is unfortunate, but again, fact of life. So we have to have the parts available.
I mean, this is a massive part of your business. I mean, from the outside looking in, you just look at companies and think they're just sales organisations, but the spares, the service, the support is a massive, massive part of your business in itself, isn't it, Steve? Yeah,
and I think that's really the way that the world is going generally. You look at the car showrooms. Most of the car showrooms now have a significant holding of the manufacturer, and the sales of cars. If you look at the price of a car, they're pretty good actually. When you think what goes into them, and the actual profitability of selling a new car is very small. I mean, I've been told around about 5%. But what, of course, they're looking for is that after-sales service, which is a bit of a dichotomy, because actually what we're doing and what the car companies are doing is making the machines more reliable. But the fact is they do get bumped. The fact is that things will wear. The fact is that parts will have a shelf life of so many hours. But I think you're right. We're no secret. We've got to make money out of selling spare parts and service, because we have to pay a big service team and a big spares team. So we've got wages to pay and that kind of thing. So I make no bones about that. But our job in life here at DMG MORI UK is to sell units. So that's kind of like my currency, selling units, selling a unit of a machine. And it's not about profitability here. Profitability is back in the group. So we can look at our accounts. They're very open. We're not big profit makers here. What we're doing is we're supplying a service to the customer where we can run our service, we can run all of our rents, rates and wages and all that kind of thing, but also place orders on the factory. That is really, really important. So we're a big supplier. We've got many factories throughout the world, many, many different products. So Teresa's got a big job to talk to a lot of customers every day. But the interesting thing there is that when she does talk to them, she's got this wonderful backup system, which is based around Germany, Japan and America, that allows Teresa to deliver parts the next day. So 95% of the time, you talk to us on Monday, we'll have a part with you on the Tuesday. So if you've got an engineer stripping down a spindle, it's the precision part of the machine, it's the heart of the machine. So one minute you're asking it to rip off as much metal as possible and hammer the life out of it, and the next minute you're asking it to work to a few microns. So again, it's got to be a really, really well-built piece of equipment. And our latest Speedmaster spindles have got 3-year unlimited warranty on the 20,000 RPM spindles. 3-year unlimited warranty. But we do replace them, and if we've got an engineer in there working on a machine, we've got to make sure, Teresa's got to make sure that engineer's supplied the next day with the parts that they can actually carry on, get the customer into production. And spindles is a big part of the business. There are companies out there that make it their business sometimes to replace spindles on machine tools, but we are very, very self-sufficient. As Teresa said, we've got a rebuild program that operates in, again, the 3 centres we've been talking about. We've got exchange spindles that we can use. We will price match against these people. It's got to be like for like. So if we're asking to be like against a company down the road that's rebuilding the spindle that's using, let's say, grade C bearings, and we're using grade A, that's not reasonable. That's not price matching. So we've got to be like for like. But we will use always grade A spindle bearings, as with our guideways, that's grade A. And we can give that program, support the whole program.
No, it's interesting. I like the analogy with the car industry, really. It's their priority to keep the wheels moving, and it's your priority to keep the spindles turning. And it's true, and to keep the wheel turning effectively.
Yeah.
For our listeners that may or may not have seen the DMG MORI machines, please go on their website and check them out. Some of the state-of-the-art technology that you can see on their website. Now, moving on to another kind of digital kind of platform, Teresa, My DMG MORI. What does this mean? How does it help your clients?
So My DMG MORI, the customer needs to register, and then he will have access to all his machines. He can see machine history, documentation for the machines as well. He can create a ticket, and he puts in the problem or what spare part does he want, presses send, and we get it immediately, and we then can process it and respond accordingly. From a spares point of view, we always go back to the customer and give them a reference number, which is the ticket number that he's created. So then we know that we're always dealing with the same inquiry. And I think it's fantastic for the customer to be able to do that. He can do it instantly. If he's working a night shift and it's 1 a.m. and he wants to look at information, it's there. He doesn't have to wait till the office opens.
Steve, is there a synergy between, does it communicate with the machine diagnostics? Because the machine tools are so clever now. Can they kind of tap into that, and does it all communicate together?
Yeah, we've got a system called Net Service, which we can link into the machine tool itself. We use what's called an IoT connector, which will allow us to effectively, when the customer wants us to link into the machine, we can then link in. We can have a look at the machine online. That is also linked with the opportunity to use a camera. So we've got service experts. So this is treading a bit on the next episode, but nevertheless, this is where it's important to diagnose the spare parts. So we can look with a camera on the particular component. Oh yes, there's some damage on that component, we need to replace this and this. And the next service, we can, once we've finished diagnosing the issue, we can cut the connection. So we're not interfering with the customer's network. So that's clean. That's there. The DMG MORI is an independent portal. So it's just in the cloud. So we're not interfering with the customer's network in any shape or form. And as Teresa says, you've got all the information of the customer's machines there, resident. So he can look at the history of it all. He can look at when the next service is due, what machine was put where, etc. And it's just interconnecting it. So it's a bit like I always order my shirts online, and I can never remember what size my sleeve length is, but it's all there, right? So what I do is I go onto the same shirt supplier, and I went, oh yeah, that's a nice one, I'll have that one. And it comes up, because I'm logged in, it comes up, these are your sizes, neck, sleeve length, this is what you like best. And I went, yeah, and order it. And they've got all my card details, and they've got all my address details, and it's done. And it's done at 11 o'clock at night. Guess what? 2 days later, it's sitting on the doorstep. So it's the same principle. Why would you want to sit on a telephone waiting for Teresa to finish her call on her last call when you can send it through and it will get action straight away? 60% of our customers are now linked in with my DMG MORI. So the other 40% need to get their finger out and link in with us, because it's moving on and we're developing it even more.
I mean, it's fascinating, Teresa. I mean, it's obviously helping your team and the people that work with you. And how important is the team that work with you?
Without them, we certainly couldn't support the company. But they're a great team. They work hard. 3 colleagues are pure spares inquiries and orders, and 1 team member is responsible for the goods in, goods out, returns to Germany, collecting spares from customers, also supporting service with getting all the test gear in and out as well. But no, they're a great bunch. I couldn't do my job without them, to be honest.
Our spares department is a very important part of the overall picture that we work with the customers. We have a very able team, with Teresa heading it up, lots and lots of knowledge. We have original supplied parts, which is important. We will price match, because we don't always get it right first time. We try to get the price right, but sometimes we can't with that many parts. So we're being open and transparent there. And this is a very important part of the business, spares. So I hope today has given the customers a little bit of an understanding and insight of what we do. And the next one that we'll be talking to, which link very closely with this, is service.
Well, I think it's been really insightful. I've really enjoyed it and learnt a hell of a lot myself. So I really appreciate your time. For the listeners at home, thank you very much for listening to this podcast. Please let us know what you think, and don't hesitate to contact DMG MORI to find out more. Teresa's opening times, or operating times, shall I say, are 7:30 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday. So you can get in touch with Teresa, or, as mentioned during the podcast, my DMG MORI is the way to go as well for instantaneous information that you can get on the cloud.
You can contact us at parts.uk@dmgmori.com. As Gio's mentioned, between 7:30 and 1800. But of course, if you're on that night shift, please still send your emails in and we will deal with them straight away in the morning. Thank you.
As mentioned, we will be producing a series of podcasts in partnership with DMG MORI, learning all about their business. So make sure to download the podcast app from your smartphones so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks, Teresa. Have you enjoyed it?
I have, yeah. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Until next week, the MTD Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on MTDCNC.com.